Morning. Before we head to Michigan, we will roll straight into questions. If you have a question for Matt, please raise your hand within the Zoom platform or send us a chat. We'll monitor both areas. And for our first question, who would like to kick us off? All right, come on, somebody wants to kick us off. Here we go. Woody Kane.
Hey, man, I appreciate your time. 2 races to go here before the regular season comes to an end. Michigan's sort of a known quantity, if you will, but then you get to Daytona where it's a wild card and a free-for-all. And what are you looking for when you get to that track?
Yeah, Michigan will, should be a good one. Hopefully a decent race for us and our car. But yeah, Daytona's its own animal, so that's going to be. It's always wild, man. Especially when you see guys like Kevin Harvick in 15th place in the points and such. Like, it's just crazy how many different winners we've had. And then you throw Daytona in the mix. Is always an opportunity for maybe a surprise winner or what have you. But obviously, it's good for us in a sense because heck, last 2 years in a row we've been leading on the white flag at super speedway races. So me and my team do a really good job at those, and our cars are fast at them. So it's good on our end.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
All right, our next question is going to come from Kelly Crandall.
Thank you. Hey, Matt, NASCAR is going to put down, instead of PJ1 this weekend, they're going to use the resin, the same formula from Nashville. So what did you think of it in Nashville, and how do you think that might be make Michigan any different?
Yeah, I thought it came in right away at Nashville and it made the racing pretty good. So I'm super curious. I don't have a great prediction for this weekend. I'm more just curious than anything. Actually kind of glad that they're trying that. Because the PJ1 is if it's not worked in, it can be like ice, and then you can get in it and crash, and then when it is worked in, it can be just so dominant that you have to be in it. So there's not a lot in between. So maybe that resin is kind of that good happy medium, which it seemed like it was at Nashville. So I think good call by them trying that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our next question will come from Bob Pockers. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Matt, have you thought about how far you're willing to go or to do at Daytona to make the playoffs?
Yeah, of course. But I don't really think it changes your driving style, because the way I look at Daytona is in the super speedways is I look at them as a chess match. So you got to be really calculated in what you do and not so much desperate. I think the guys that race, you are desperate inside, but as far as how you race that race, it's more of a calculated approach. And I think you can look at those races and you can watch and you can truly see the people that really study and really put so much effort into those races and are calculated in every decision that you make. And it's shown. We've been, and you never know what can happen. You get wiped out through any of that at any time in the race. But as far as the things in your control, myself and our Penske teammates, you quite often see our group running up front and see us working together well. The Fords are always fast. But as far as just speaking about myself personally, me and my spotter Doug and our team, it's not a coincidence. I mean this in a humble way, but it's not a coincidence that we have been up front and have been having a shot to win those things and leading on the white flag a couple years in a row and in contention so often at those, because we put a tremendous amount of work into those races. I go to my spotter Doug's house and we spend a full day and separately even throughout the week studying like crazy, because it's a chess match and every single move you make throughout that race determines where you end up and cycle out, through the end of that thing. So, and so it's a lot of work and it pays off is basically what I'm saying.
Well, how difficult is it to remain controlled when you are desperate?
It's a good question. I think every time I hop in a race car, we're all kind of desperate. So I think my career path has allowed me to kind of separate pressure and being smart and not being in a situation where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm leading, I have to win. And then you just throw everything out of your brain. I think I've been fortunate enough to become mentally tough enough to where yes, you're desperate, but you got to separate those things. When you're driving that race car, you got to be perfect. There's no excuse for anything else. When you're at Daytona and in the draft, you can't just lose your head and start throwing things out the window and reacting out of pure desperation and not being calculated still in what you're doing. Because then that if you let that pressure and that mindset get to you, then you throw it out. You could be throwing a race win out. So to answer your question, Bob, I feel fortunate that I've worked hard on the mental side of the super speedway racing to prepare for instances like that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, our next question is going to come from Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, Matt, how does and how you study for Daytona, how is it different from other events?
It's quite different. I think a similarity between studying for Michigan and Daytona is that I study every, I don't want to give away everything, but I mean, I think we study the restarts a lot at places like Michigan. And I do look at those kind of super speedway-ish with the rules package that we have right now. So there's a similarity, but at Daytona, you're watching the entire race in that way because we are in a draft the whole time. It doesn't, get like a Michigan where the restarts are very super speedway-ish and then eventually it kind of single files out and then you're just driving. Daytona is an extreme case of studying for every move throughout the whole entire race. So SMT is your biggest friend for studying. So my spotter, Doug Campbell, and I will go over that together. We'll have it all loaded up. We'll watch the whole race from an overhead view on SMT. And that's where you can really see, people's lane decisions, what works, and you can see a whole lane moving. You got to watch it in a pretty pulled out perspective, and it's fun. I really actually enjoy. I look forward to studying for Daytona because it's a fun challenge, and you get to see, unless you get wiped out, there's obviously a lot of things that are out of your control, but you also get to see you and your spotter and your team's hard work, correlate to decision making on the racetrack.
Hey, also, NASCAR came out this week with some additional requirements or modifications of how things are going to be done in the garage because of COVID. How does that, how have you, or are you adjusting how you're doing things now, even more so as in the last few weeks as COVID's become this next wave of this next surge?
Some people may not like my answer, to be honest with you. I'm respectful of, NASCAR runs the ship. So I never try to be that guy that's like, I think NASCAR needs to do this and that. And because at the end of the day, I don't own and I don't run NASCAR and so I don't control any of that. So whatever they say and decide and that this is their ship, and I'm on it. So I don't really care for when people try and say, I think they should do this and that. But to answer your question, we drive race cars at 200 miles an hour. Being scared of things isn't really in our DNA, but I'm totally respectful of those that may want to live in a safer type of environment. And I'm on the side of pro freedom. So whatever people want to choose to do in life is what I 100% support. So that would be where I'm at on that stuff, but I will be respectful to whatever they decide there. But also to answer your question, I also know what's happening on a bigger scale in the world. People need to pull out their perspectives and wake up a little bit because there's a lot happening in our world that's very sad to see. And people need to pull their perspectives out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to take another question from Bob Uckris. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, man, I was just curious, when you're talking about studying for Daytona, how much do you look back at Talladega, or is there part of you that says, man, I can't watch that, it's just too difficult?
Oh, you bring up a good point, Bob. Yeah, I got to go back and be mentally tough and be like, okay, let's go back and watch, even though it's like heartbreaking and really freaking painful to watch. Anytime you lose a race when you're leading on the white flag coming off of turn 4, especially. So, but yeah, no, you got to watch those things because you're never perfect. You always got to keep getting better, learn from every single thing that you do. And Doug and I will talk about that and be like, all right, well, we did. What could we have done better? How can we, just keep on improving communication? And man, every super speedway race we've ran, because of watching things like that and tying it all together, we get better and better and better, and we keep on perfecting it more and more and more. Well, you'll never be perfect. I could do this for 50 years, super speedway racing, and it's always evolving, and you always got to keep up with it. But yeah, to answer your question, got to look at all those instances, good and bad, and pretty much when I watch the past races, all I do is just critique myself. Doug and I just critique ourselves, like, oh, we should have done that. Matt, you moron, why didn't you make this move or jump in this lane or whatever? So it's kind of funny after we're done watching, because it's just a whole thing of critiquing what we did the last time and how to do it better.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to go back to Woody Kane. Go ahead, Woody.
Thanks. Hey, Matt, just wanted to ask you about the 2022 thing. I know you got to be focused on these next 2 races, but you also at the same time got to look at next year. What's the environment like out there right now, and what kinds of things have you talked about with different teams, and what are you looking for?
Yeah, good question. I'm always super open book about this stuff. It's just the way it is. I've said this bunch to you guys. I don't know. I really don't have anything solid in the works for next year, to be honest with you. It's still just kind of some wait and see and figuring out, waiting for some dominoes to fall and really just kind of figuring it out. And, so there's some things that are out of my control. It's in God's timing, and just working as hard as I can on things that are in my control. So, I don't know, the one thing that is the biggest positive is that, listen, I'm going to say this super brutally honest. When I kind of put my name on the line and we made a crew chief change in the, middle of the season, and I was pretty, fairly adamant about it, just being honest and respectful to everybody, just when we needed, the relationship wasn't quite working and it weren't clicking like it needed to. So what I'm getting at is I put my reputation and my life's work and everything on the line by saying that, because if we changed crew chiefs, made a big change on our Wood Brothers team in the middle of the year, and then we went out and performance didn't change, guess who it reflects on? Me. And it'd be like, oh, well, Matt, we made a change and, nothing really happened. So I put, that was a lot on me, but I knew it happened. But on the flip side, it has been exactly what I, had hoped for, and I'm very fortunate has happened, that Jonathan Hassler took over this team, and our worst runs are 11th place finishes, so we've been running up in the top 10 weekly. He's been making excellent calls. Our team is just rocking and rolling. It's clicked. It's the whole dynamic is there. And our performance, if you look at it, is significantly improved. So, and I talk about it all the time, performance is what, does all the speaking for me and for us. So I'm very fortunate to have, Hassler that's taken over his team, and to have such an entire group, our whole 21 team that is so good. Because going out there, running good, showing that, hopefully winning one of these things, which we truly have a team that is 100% capable of that now more than ever. So going out, continuing that performance and showing what, I was adamant about, showing the strength of our team throughout the remainder of the season is going to do more speaking than anything else, and hopefully help that 2022 situation out.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right, our next question is going to come from Nathan. Go ahead, Nathan.
Hey, Matt. So obviously you've came the closest to winning a race on plate races. So I'm curious, has your focus shifted more towards Daytona next weekend, or are you guys more focused on Michigan this weekend with your momentum you guys have had over the last 5 or 6 races?
Yeah, I think equal focus on both of them, to be honest with you, because like I was talking about, all the studying and preparation that, we do for Daytona, I'm kind of in the midst of, we're doing that right now for Michigan. And preparing for that and talking with the team. And so really every week I think is equal focus, especially because our team is stronger now than we have been. Obviously those Hendrick cars are really fast and really tough to beat. They're pretty dominant. And the Gibbs cars are pretty fast as well. I think we've stacked up just like right behind those guys. I think we've been kind of the leader of maybe one of the leaders of the group behind Hendrick and Gibbs cars. But just knowing that we, have good speed, we're, calling the race well. Our 21 team, just speaking on us personally, is excellent, better than ever. So, I think we're equally focused on the two. Excited about Michigan, go there, and our Fords run good, and then obviously going to super speedway. I'd say one race at a time. If we don't win this weekend, then we go to Daytona and prepare just like we always do, and be ready and hopefully close one out, since we've been so close on those things.
And obviously you mentioned the crew chief change. Do you feel that your team would have been able to hit your stride earlier in the season had you make that change, in the off season earlier this season?
Yeah, I have one word answer for that, and it's a yes, 100%.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any final questions for Matt? All right. Looks like that is it. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you spending some time with us, and we wish you nothing but the best at Michigan.
All right. Sounds good, everybody. Thank you.